All right. Good evening, everybody. It's just me today, Savannah, on the sidelines with Sav. I've never done a pod by myself before, and I am like not feeling the best. And so 30 minutes in and out. There wasn't a ton of ACC games this week because a lot of people were on their bye and a lot of teams played each other. So we should be able to recap pretty fast. I also got some questions in my Twitter comments, but if you have more questions, please feel free to log in and ask them in the chat as well. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I'm in my office. We're slowly but surely pulling it together. I told myself that I just needed to bite the bullet and lock in and get it done. So I'm working on that. But let's get into it, ACC recap, because I'll probably lose my voice at some point. And I want to be able to get through this recap first. Okay, starting off with our Friday night game. One thing I love about the ACC is we're going to have a Friday night game. We're going to have a Friday night game. And I love that. It was Cal traveled to Virginia Tech, Lane Stadium. The line was Virginia Tech -4.5. But they did end up winning in double overtime. Honestly, it was just kind of a crazy game. Cal JKS went off. He threw for 286 yards. The receiving leader was Jacob De Jesus. He had 86 receiving yards. It was a tough night for Cal. I've said it a billion times, but I will say it again. I'll never pick the team that has to travel coast to coast. The time change, beating the team and the time change is like a double whammy that just doesn't happen very often. Virginia Tech, I've said this before and I'll say it again also, is living their best. We fired our head coach, so now we have nothing to lose, so we might as well win games business. Tough game for Cal, tough flight home. I know because I've been there before. Moving on to the next game, which was Syracuse at Georgia Tech. The line was 17.5 points. Ever since Angeli obviously got injured, the season has kind of been over for Syracuse, unfortunately, because I think that they were on their way to having a good season, especially with, like I've said a million times, I like Fran Brown. I think he's a good coach. I think they're headed in the right direction. It's just kind of devastating what ended up happening to them this year. Georgia Tech took care of business, 141-16. Haynes King threw for 304 yards. He was also the leading rusher for the game and for Georgia Tech with almost 100 yards rushing. Moving on to the next game, we had the South Solus rivalry. This is one of my favorite games that I guess doesn't mean anything to me now, but was meaningful to me for so long that it's become important to me forever. I was wrong. I thought that UVA would take care of business and get the job done and destroy them. Last week on the pod, I had Nick and I were talking about it. He was saying how I think it was in 2021, maybe 2022, that UVA traveled to Chapel Hill. They were 0-5. Yes, UNC decided to show up for the game. UVA was 0-5, went to Chapel Hill and beat a ranked playoff hopeful UNC with Drake May. And so I had forgotten that this rivalry is sometimes crazy. And that game truly showed crazy. I was watching it super closely. It went It ended up being 16-17 in overtime. UVA pulled it out. Gio Lopez actually was the better passer that day. He threw for 208 yards. I don't know that this is a hot take. I tweeted about it, but I still do agree with it. UNC going for two in overtime was absolutely the right move. And this is why. There's a lot of reasons why, but the main reason why is because you're an underdog. It's at home. You're lucky to have it be this close with UVA at this point into the game. The more overtimes you go to, the more likely it is to like separate that UVA is going to separate themselves from you and win the game, right? So if you're a UNC fan, obviously the end to this game is devastating for you because you didn't get the 2-point conversion, but it was the right coaching call in my opinion. And if you want to talk more about this, then we absolutely can. Henry is saying that UVA is the best team in the ACC. Henry, what are your thoughts on Georgia Tech? I think Georgia Tech has a run for best team in the ACC, to be honest, as well. Yeah, Evan's kind of saying my exact point. You don't know if when you'll score again, you get the 2 and be done with it, or you don't and be done with it. It was absolutely the right move. Yeah, I think UVA is headed in, is in the conversation of best teams in the ACC. I do think that, like I said, Georgia Tech is also in that conversation. Last week, I said before the Syracuse game, I had said that Georgia Tech was currently the best offense in the ACC. I would have previously said Miami, but that's changed. But they took care of business against Syracuse, so I still give Georgia Tech the best offense in the country. And I unfortunately think that because they have the best offense in the country, that UVA is still second to them. I think UVA's margin for winning is higher than Georgia Tech's. I think Georgia Tech plays to the level of their opponent, for better or for worse. And so them taking care of Syracuse was like the thing that I needed, in the sense of them like, okay, they're a good team because they took care of business. They have a huge game this weekend against NC State at home. Huge pack game this weekend. Yes. I changed all my plans. I was supposed to be going to the world's largest cocktail party this weekend, but I would do anything for the pack, and they've won every game I've been at this year. So I need to take one for the team and go to my dad's game. I'm really taking one for the team because, like I said, I'm also not feeling super great. So huge game. I will be there. It's homecoming. Go Pack, baby. Speaking of the Pack, they traveled to Pittsburgh and came home with an L, unfortunately. I don't want to go into too much detail about it. I don't think the offense did horribly. Pitt was a 6.5-point favorite. The defense gave up a lot of points. I can't talk about it. I just can't talk about it too much. Mason Heidschel went off. He had like 440 yards of offense. Hollywood Smothers had himself a day as well. NC State put up 34 points on offense, but gave up 53. Just a bummer all around. Which again is why I'm going to the game this weekend. All hands on deck. Do everything that you possibly can for the team. Okay, moving on to the next game so that we can quickly be done with that one and talking about it. This is a game that I called correctly and I was super excited for. SMU traveled to Wake Forest. SMU was a 3.5-point favorite. And people told me that someone said, and I quote, "What does Savannah know that I don't know? SMU is going to go there and destroy them." Obviously, I know something. I'm not sure what it is I know either, because I'm wrong far more than I am right. But one thing I am right about is that Wake Forest is a good team. They got screwed by the refs against Georgia Tech. They should have won that game. They had a huge lead against NC State, and NC State came back and won. That should be their only loss. The NC State game should be their only loss. Wake Forest is a good team. I will die on this hill that they are so much better than their record technically says, even though they don't even have that bad of a record. I do think that Damon Claiborne is like one of the best backs in the league right now and in college, all of college football. SMU, are they frauds? I guess that's the real question. I think they might be frauds, which I know is crazy. And I know a lot of people were like, it wouldn't be, it's true ACC fashion to like lose to some random team like Wake Forest. This was your welcome to the ACC because this is really on par for the ACC and the chaos that it is. But I just genuinely, I don't see what other people are seeing in SMU. So maybe someone tell me I'm wrong or tell me what I'm missing there. I just currently don't know what it is. But I'm not surprised that Wake Forest won, as a matter of fact. And then to round it out, I think there was only one other game for the ACC. No, so I apologize. There was two more games. There was Stanford at Miami and Boston College at Louisville. Stanford at Miami. The line was 29.5. It was at Miami. They were supposed to destroy them. Honestly, Stanford kept it close for dare I say longer than I thought that they would. It was like 7-7 for a really long time, and then Miami obviously ran away with it. Carson Beck threw for almost 200 yards. Mark Fletcher Jr. ran for over 100 yards. Again, the 3-hour time change. I will never pick the team with the time difference. I also feel bad for Stanford for this game because coming off of the loss, Miami really had something to prove. Whereas I think that if Miami had won the weekend before, that this was absolutely would have been a trap game for Miami. And there was a chance that Stanford could have come away with a win. As we know, Mario Cristobal does have an issue playing Stanford. So I was hoping and praying for my Stanford besties. Callum said Miami is too good, but are they? They're very good in the trenches, but I just don't think that Carson Beck is great. I guess you don't need to be great if you have the trenches that he has. But like Carson Beck single-handedly cost Miami the game against Louisville. So I think they are good, or is that just Mario Cristobal fashion? They lose a game that they absolutely shouldn't have, and it ruins them in the sense that now they have to like hope and pray for other things to happen in the ACC so that they can make it to the championship. Yes, he's so inconsistent. And I personally think that there's nothing worse than being inconsistent because if you're consistently bad, then we at least know what to expect. If you're consistently good, then we at least know what to expect. Even if you're consistently average, we know what to expect. But which version of Carson Beck are we going to get week in and week out? We never know. This week, we got the hot Carson Beck. The week before, we got the freaking freezing cold Carson Beck. So it is just interesting. The last ACC game we had Boston College travel to Louisville. Guys, even my NC State mug. It's always go pack. We had Boston College travel to Louisville. And this game for me was closer than it should have been for a number 19 ranked Louisville. They did win 38-24. Grayson James threw for almost 250 yards. Isaac Brown ran for over 200 yards, which is literally insane. He is probably up there with Damon Claiborne and Hollywood Smothers for me after this game in terms of backs in the ACC. The Cardinals, the Louisville Cardinals really found somebody in him. But I had previously said that I think Boston College is bottom of the barrel ACC, which don't get me wrong, I still think that they are. But it's just interesting to me how close that they kept that game. I would have expected Louisville to blow them out. I did ask on Twitter if people had questions that they wanted me to answer on the pod to ask them, and I did get a couple. So let's go through some of those really fast. Does the ACC only... Okay, let's actually start with this one. Is UVA really good or really, really, really good? At this point, I think that they're just really good, Ben. The rest of their schedule is setting them up for success to like win out. But until the University of Virginia gives me a reason to believe that they will beat Virginia Tech, they will not. They just simply will not. And so out of their 4 remaining games, they travel to Cal, they have Wake at home, and then they go to Duke, and then they play Virginia Tech at home. Out of that, like right now, I'm expecting them to go 2-2. If they go 3-1, great. If they go 4-0, they're really, really, really good. I just currently have them going 2-2 in those. Traveling to Cal, like I said, it's tough to travel that time zones, but also never count out the North Carolina teams, baby. I could see them easily dropping one at Duke or against Wake. And then, like I said, they end their season with the Commonwealth, which they just played their other rival, UNC, and it was a very close game. So everything goes out the window on rivalry week, but Virginia Tech season, since they fired Brent Pry, has taken a turn for the better. So I wouldn't count out Virginia Tech quite yet either. Somebody else asked, does the ACC only get 2 teams in the CFP if someone other than Miami wins the conference? Yeah, we all know that everyone hates the ACC and that they'll try to put the least amount of ACC teams in that they possibly can. So I don't think at this point that Miami wins the ACC. Matter of fact, I think the ACC championship game right now is going to be between like UVA, Louisville, Georgia Tech. Those are my 3 front runners at this point. And if any of them win out and then lose the ACC championship, I think that we'll get... I think that's the only way we could get 3 teams in. Let's say UVA wins out and they play Louisville, and Louisville wins the ACC. I think Louisville gets in. I think UVA gets in. And then I think Miami gets in. So I think there's a world where we could get 3 teams, but I really only expect the ACC to get 2, which is a bummer. Why do I think the ACC is so hated? Because they don't want the ACC to be a thing. They want us to just have the Big Ten and the and the SEC and go from there, which I also think is just a bummer. Like, eventually the pendulum will swing and we'll go back to regionalized college football again. But until that pendulum swings, like, this middle ground of where we are is so stupid. And I love the addition of Cal, SMU, and Stanford in the All Coast Conference. Don't get me wrong. It's been really fun to have them. I enjoy them. But, like, we all know that it was better when the Pac-12 existed. Like, if you're a college football fan and you don't think that, like, I don't think you're on the same page with any other college football fans. I guess, I mean, yeah, just a bummer. It's just really a bummer that that's what it is. But that's kind of a recap of the ACC this week. If anybody else has any other questions, drop them in my comments on Twitter or in the comments on the YouTube, or once I retweet it online as well. Like I said, sorry to keep it so short and sweet. I was in the works of working on a couple other things that will be exciting for this pod moving forward. So here's to this week. What is it? We're in week 10 of college football, and it going well for the Wolfpack this weekend. But I will end with this from Evan and then hop off. The ACC is hanging on. They're having a great competitive year. I do agree with this. Never forget that Alabama lost to Florida State, who is a bottom dweller ACC team. hasn't won an ACC game in more than 2 years. So we're hot in the ACC. Have a great week, everybody. Please send me pictures of the games and things that you're at. I'll be watching midweeks from my couch, live tweeting about how they're so much fun and so much better. And we will talk about the ACC next week. Bye, guys.